Hi, Gay DeRusso with the Majestic Rider. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about half halts. I do have that one video on half halts, but I want to cover a little bit more, and it's also older. So what is a half halt? A half halt is when you're holding your reins, you have your fingers around your reins, and you squeeze real tight, and then you release it. It's kind of like tapping on your brakes. When you do it, if you have a horse that's quiet or it's not engaging itself, when you do that half halt and your horse is trained, again, it has to be trained to understand these things, that's telling the horse to slow down. So if you're trying to get it underneath itself, or say you were doing a running walk, it goes up to a saddle gait and you didn't want that and you want it back to a running walk, as you squeeze and relax on the reins, you have to squeeze a little bit with your leg. You can use your calves, you can use your thighs to squeeze in, or you can dig a little bit with your seat, because you're trying to get that horse to come up underneath you, and then you're catching that energy, and again, you're tapping on that brake a little bit just to bring it back down in speed to hold the gait. So when I'm riding the horses, I usually have gloves on so you can't see my hands, and I ride with a very light hand, but what I'm doing is as that horse is changing speeds, because they all come here and are not trained usually that well, so they do not keep the same speed, I am helping the horse to understand to stay the same speed. The way I'm doing that is I'm squeezing and relaxing on the rein when they're starting to pick up speed. When they're starting to slow down, if I didn't ask them, I release a little bit more on the rein. My fingers are still around it, but I open them up a little bit more, and then I'll close my leg by squeezing my calves together like I have a ball in between my legs. Some people like to ride with their thighs, so yes, you can squeeze with your thighs. Some of the gaited horses won't understand that in the beginning, but they will later on. And you can always squeeze your butt, which I'm doing right now, and that can push the horse forward. So you can use any of those things. But what happens is, say I'm doing a flat walk right now, and the horse is pretty good, so I just have my fingers around the rein with light contact. He starts to pick up speed, so I'm going to squeeze lightly, hold. Once the horse slows down, then I release. So I don't squeeze real tight and I don't open my fingers real far. It's just a light squeeze and then a relax. So in the end, you really won't see me doing much with my hands, although I am. And that's what you'll see in the sale videos. If people ride well, is they are doing things to keep that horse the same speed. You just don't see it, so you don't think you have to when the horse arrives. You do. You need to tell them what speed to go, because they usually don't understand, and then you need to tell them to stay in that speed by repeating that half halt anytime they're getting too fast. But it's always squeeze lightly, hold the same pressure, wait for the response, and then when the horse goes the correct speed, you open your fingers a little bit. That's the release, and that's then the answer to the horse saying, yes, that's what I wanted, because now I released on you. So pressure tells them, I need you to do something, try to figure it out. Then when they slow down and do the right thing, you release and you say, yes, that was the right answer, good horse. So you do that over and over again until they are able to keep the correct speed, and then over time you do not have to half halt as much. It's the same thing when you're on trail. If they're going fast, you want to half halt, but you're not releasing until they do the right thing. Because I've seen some people half halt and they're doing this. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like half halting. I'm like, that's not how you do it. So you're getting a response. You squeeze, wait for the response. If nothing is happening, you squeeze tighter and then give it a couple of seconds. If nothing is happening, you keep the same squeeze with your fingers and then engage your elbow. So you're adding more and more pressure. If that doesn't work, then yes, you can slide the bit and see if that will work. It's best to teach these things in the arena so you have control. You can get your horse to understand before doing it out on trail. There are too many distractions out on trail, and if you're trying to teach it out there, the horse is not going to grasp the concept very well. Remember when the teachers took us outside and they were trying to teach us something? Were you paying attention? Because I wasn't. I was like this, looking all around outside. And that's usually what the horses are doing too. So you got to teach them somewhere boring where they're going to focus on you and not out there, and then you practice it out there once you can do it well, okay? So again, say you're doing a running walk and now your horse starts to do a saddle gait or it starts to pace. You half halt, wait for the response, and then release when they do the right response. With the horses, you're always trying to do the lightest touch first, so the lightest amount of pressure, and then if it's not working, increase the pressure. There's no reason to clamp down really hard on them when they don't even know what to do yet. So you just want a light pressure, and then you add more and more, and then always go back to the lightest pressure in the end. Remember, horses can feel everything. When they're not doing something, it's usually they don't understand or they're ignoring you for some reason, and you have to figure out why and then correct it. Otherwise, you can usually use the lightest touch to get that across. Now, when I'm going to do something different with the horse, like I'm going to leg yield, or there's a biker coming up and I'm going to push the horse over, or I want to canter, I always use the half halt to tell them, hey, we're going to do something. So I use it for something else. So say I'm going to canter, I go, hey, we're going to do something now. And so I just do squeeze and relax, and then I give them the aids for the canter. If I'm going downhill and say there's steps or something, I'm going to squeeze, wait for them to slow down, release. And then they might take a couple of other steps, and I feel them getting heavy on their front end, and I squeeze and relax again. And what I'm trying to do is keep their weight on their back end. So that half halt can slow your horse down, can tell them you're going to do something different, and it can also help to lighten your horse's front end and get them to engage their back end, okay? There's many things we can do with our hands, but it all should be light, and it's usually the last thing. If a horse is speeding up, it's not that you just want to half halt immediately. You want to think, am I using too much leg? Let's take some leg off. Maybe I should take a deep breath because he feels that I'm anxious. And if that doesn't work, then I give my half halt, okay? So we're trying to stay out of their mouth as much as we can. We try to use the lightest hand. We try to use the bit that works for that horse and that the horse is comfortable in and that we can control him in. And then again, you can always change those bits over time if it's not working out and try to, ride him in something else. But you're trying to teach the horse what you want and then lightly ask them to do it over and over again until they understand what you want. So again, that half halt is very important with gaited riding because our horses can change their gait so quickly that we have to be able to communicate with them and make tiny little adjustments. If you don't know how to do it and you don't know how to use those hands correctly, then what happens is, you're used to doing this because you just learned how to ride, and that's what they teach you. Just pull back in the beginning. So you've never finished you, and so you're doing too much. So you start going, and you ask the horse to go, and it goes, and then it starts going faster and faster, and since you don't know how to ride well, you're like, and so you let it go, then it gets too fast, starts pacing or trotting, then you pull back, it comes back to a walk. Then you ask it to go again, it goes too fast, then you pull back, it goes too slow. And all you end up doing is walking, pacing, and trotting. You have to make a finished product with yourself, and you remember, you slowly ask them to go, so the lightest leg. If they don't go, squeeze a little harder. If they don't go, squeeze a little harder. If they don't go, then you tap with a stick. Then once you get the energy, you're here right away, ready to half halt on the reins in case they start going too fast. And that's how you get them to go the correct speed, and then you stop them and reward them and scratch them when they do the right thing so they understand, and then you do it over and over again. The lightest leg, the lightest hand, but that's how you're communicating with them is by having some contact. So that half halt is very important. It's best you practice it, learn how to do it correctly. Practice it at home with a dog leash or your reins on a chair, then practice it with your horse in the arena, and once you can do it there well, then start doing it out on trail. All right, hope that helps.